What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. I'm not proud to say this, but Friday afternoon, we were just kind of hanging out at the house, and Maria and I was like, you know what? Let's throw on the Aaron Rodgers documentary. Now, granted, it was, Netflix. It wasn't like I had been thinking about it. It had kind of popped up on the Netflix when we were looking around, right around probably, I think we had just had dinner. So it was early. We had an early dinner on Friday. It's like, let's just throw this on. See what it's all about. And I didn't make it through the whole thing. She let's just say she was the driving force of like, yeah, let's watch something else after about halfway through episode two. And I had two big takeaways from the documentary. One, somewhat of a troubled soul. And listen, there are elements to all of us that we all have issues. One thing I see a lot from my generation is like the trauma we all had. It's like, yeah, being a parent's hard. Most parents try their hardest. There's no handbook to do any of this. For the most part, like you could find an example in most human beings if it's not like specific things, right? I'm just talking most people's childhood, like the trauma we had to endure of our parents. Like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, some people just kind of grow out of phases or can figure things out for like, yeah, ha- holding on to this anger and this chip on my shoulder is something that's not going to be that healthy or be able to balance it. And there is a chip on Aaron Rodgers' shoulder that you feel. And listen, that only you know, just like only I know what it was like to grow up in my home, what it was like to grow up in his home. And obviously, if no like laws were broken or anything, it's like, yeah, it's like probably disagreed, probably agreed with some things your parents forced you to do as a kid. And to like still be harboring this energy toward like his childhood, you kind of feel it like watching. Like there's just, it's like he's this troubled soul who really likes himself, some Aaron Rodgers. And it was like, Jesus, and my takeaway watching this was like, I just have a hard time seeing Tom or Peyton kind of act like this. And a huge element of it is, part of this was shot. He's single, no family, no kids. Obviously, doesn't talk to his family. It just feels like he's kind of a lost soul with no family to lean on. And I do think as you age, right, as you get older, especially if you have the amount of disposable income which you have in Aaron Rodgers' situation, they have nothing to lean on. Like family, when you are someone that is famous as him, is potentially the only part of your circle that really can keep some humility in your life. Obviously, your parents, your brothers and sisters, your wife can say things to you critically that no one else is saying. And obviously, once you put children in that, you are living for someone else. There's a bigger purpose to your life. And you're just watching Aaron Rodgers, you're like, this guy feels kind of like a lost soul. A huge ego who's just a lost soul. Now, the one thing I will defend with his parents, uh, from his perspective, is the thing that happened with his brother on The Bachelor when they left the open seats. Like, that is a complete loser move by his parents. Even if you weren't happy with your child and you weren't speaking to your child, there would be a level of respect. You would think, I know I would never do this to my future children. My parents would never have done this to me. It's like, yeah, we're not doing this. Like, we can bring cameras into the house for my other son dating this girl, but to put those two seats, you knew exactly what you're doing. That's a loser fucking move. And I don't blame Aaron from like double middle fingers. Now, the rest of your life, I don't know what else happened. It just feels like there's all this negative energy surrounding his family that's forced him into the kind of this weird life that I see people on the internet right now are making fun of. Like, do we got a Manti Te'o situation going on? He's got a wedding ring. No one's seen his wife. He's going on solo walks on the beach. Uh, I don't recommend Enigma. If you never watch it, you're not missing much. It's just kind of The football part's kind of cool. Like I enjoyed like Mike McCarthy's a big part of it. Some of his former coaches are a big part of it. But any part outside of football just feels a little weird. And this is what I was saying like about people making fun of him for the ayahuasca, for the darkness retreats. Like you get made fun of for doing that stuff. Like even if there are positive benefits, like, listen, I don't journal, but clearly watch a lot of successful people that like talk about it on Instagram. Like, probably journaling's pretty healthy. If I went on a couple of my group chats that I'm on text messages with from friends from college or friends from the NFL and just started throwing out, like, here are my thoughts that I've journaled over the last week, and they made fun of me, I'd only have myself to blame. And I just think when I mean, he's made hundreds of millions of dollars. There's like a LeBron element to this. What does he get made fun of all the time? It's like LeBron lives in his own little world. Well, who in LeBron's camp is going to tell LeBron no? Who's going to tell LeBron like, hey, that's kind of sounds stupid? I just saw today he opted back into his contract. He will have made $580 million in his NBA career. So when you factor in the amount of revenue he's generating for everyone in that little circle, business is booming. And the one thing when business is booming, you don't want to fuck with the cash cow. So I just watched this Enigma thinking, this is a bizarre experience. This is not even uncomfortable, but there's an element of kind of sadness. There's an element you feel for the guy. Obviously, the family element, but it's like there's just like this egotistical factoring in like this resentment toward other. It's a wild experience, which yeah, wouldn't recommend. Other than that, I was thinking today, like some of these guys, I saw Florio put up like a hot seat. Obviously, every year we know on the low end it's five, on the high end it could be like six or seven guys getting fired. That some of these guys that are on summer break right now that have, one of the best jobs in professional sports, you're the head coach of an NFL team. Even if you're on the low end, you're making $7, $8 million. Think about Major League Baseball managers. Some of these guys make like $800,000. So that's like what a running back coach makes with 10 years experience in the league. So it's an incredibly highly paid, highly public, highly, you get a lot of power that comes along with it. It's a great gig. It's an intense gig. It's a stressful gig, but it's uh it's one that not many people get the opportunity to ever do, even in the profession. Some of these guys know they're screwed. I was thinking about if you're Brian Daboll, you head to vacation, you think, my career, my head coaching career at least, is depending on Russell Wilson throwing touchdowns. If I'm Shane Steichen, and listen, I one of the surprise predictions last week on the herd was Daniel Jones resurrects his career. What if he doesn't? And if you're Shane Steichen, you're thinking, a couple years ago, I was known as a genius. I helped save like Nick Sirianni's career because they gave me the play calling duties. I helped make Jalen Hurts a high end player. Offensively, I was known as a genius. Hell, 2 years ago, I was like, this guy won 9 games with Gardner Minshew. Now I'm potentially fighting for my job, and it's tied to Daniel Jones. By all reports and everyone in Indy, you can see this coming from a mile away. He's going to be the starting quarterback in Indianapolis. You can put that in Sharpie right now. Daniel Jones, week one starting. That's who you're depending on? Man, I mean, sometimes when your back's against the wall, you just hope to get a lifeline, right? It's like you see some of these situations. Uh, Someone's like floating that gets found by a Coast Guard in the water. It's like, well, we had my boat capsized, but we had this incredible blow up buoy thing that I was able to sit on. I had a flare. It wasn't easy, but given the circumstance, saved my life. I don't know if that's the situation here. Could get really, really ugly. And obviously, every year, you have situations that you didn't see coming. Everyone thinks Mike McDaniel's in major, major trouble. I think that team is just not going to be very good. And I think I've said this forever. It's one of those jobs like Brian Daboll and Shane Steichen, if they were to get fired, would be offensive coordinators immediately. Like look at Dennis Allen, who's an embarrassing head coach. Your boy picked the Saints last year. Shows you what an idiot I am. But he'll never be a head coach again. But the moment he's available, Like three teams are trying to hire him as a defensive coordinator. And he will be a defensive coordinator until he doesn't want to work in the NFL. Well, a defensive coordinator like Dennis Allen, he's making like 2.5, 3, $4 million. He has none of the stress of being a head coach. He's not in charge of the personnel. All he has to do is coach defense. And he's making millions of dollars. He's making more than probably, I don't know, 40%, 50% of the roster. And he's a failure as a head coach. So Shane Steichen, Brian Dable, these guys, even Mike McDaniel, I'm sure would get hired to be an offensive coordinator pretty quickly. But being a head coach is pretty lucrative, right? It gives you a lot of fame, gives you a lot of money, gives you a lot of power. You sit at the front of the seat, you sit at the front of the table. Everyone's looking at you. You make the hires. You have a huge influence, even if you're not in control of the draft. You have a huge influence on the draft because what GM wants to give a player to the head coach that doesn't want to coach him? So say, whether the front office is in charge or not, you kind of have to acquiesce a little bit to whoever your coaches are because you want them to like the players. Because they don't like the players, they can control that guy's trajectory, and all of a sudden he's not playing and does you no good. So that's a little hot seat talk here in the middle of June.